No. Present. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming to our week 9 general meeting. This article just gave me so much joy. So these were researchers at North Carolina State University looking at using mussels as a natural alert basically to toxic substances in aquatic systems. So basically they were describing how that you can kind of see in the background there, and on this picture you can see it better. They're basically attaching these sensors to mollusks because when they feed, they open the shell up, but if there's something toxic to the mussel, it'll really quickly close. So they were basically describing this as, I love the two phrases they used, one being that they've designed a custom Fitbit for mussels, and the other being that with all of these mussels hooked up, they have created the Internet of Mussels, which was just such a good phrase. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting. They were also talking about like, sometimes you get a like a false alarm when something passes by and all the mussels close up. I thought it was really interesting, but so they don't know a ton about what triggers them to close, but they know for sure that something toxic in the water will do that. So they're really looking for when a lot of mussels close up all at once. Yeah, I just thought that was super interesting, and I'm truly going to, I just love the phrase Internet of Mussels. It was very good. So a couple things I want to mention, and then we're going to go right into 3x5s. So the first being, congratulations to our new president and event coordinator, Catherine and Colin. I'm very excited for you guys. That also, oh, I have a slide missing. That's sad. Basically, this means we have a couple open positions. So the vice president position and the treasurer position are both open now. So we're basically going to repeat the 3-week, I think it was a 4-week process, but we're going to crunch it a little bit shorter. So basically, after this meeting, there will be a form on Slack for nominations for those 2 positions. Nominations are going to be open until Friday evening. And then Saturday morning, I will be sending emails out to those people, and I need replies back by Tuesday if you want to accept or run for more than one position. And then on Tuesday, we'll present, and a week later, we'll have those results. So if anyone has any questions about that, it was vice president and treasurer. If anyone has any questions about those, feel free to ask. Really, anyone on eBoard can probably tell you about those positions. But yeah. Another announcement I wanted to make, Goodbye Goodbye is hiring. They're looking both for general volunteers and for team captains. And I believe the team captains are a paid stipend position. And this is towards the middle to end of August, so right before classes start. So if you're around anyway, perfect way to make a little bit of cash in the first couple weeks before classes start. And I know we have some freshmen here, so you guys haven't seen a Goodbye Goodbye. It is such an awesome initiative. They basically will take all the stuff that people leave and don't bring home with them, or stuff that would, like furniture that would go in the garbage out of convenience. They take it all, they clean it, they sort through it, and they resell it at the beginning of the semester. So yeah, it's a really awesome initiative. I highly encourage anyone to apply for this. You can find it, I can also send it, or Christian can send it in Slack. But if you just Google Goodbye Goodbye, they have their own website and you can find everything you need there. So yeah. Oh, well, there's my slide that I wanted before. I mean, it says everything I just said. So I'm just gonna skip it. And now we are up for 3x5s. I think first, does anyone have any questions about anything I just covered before? Because we're gonna go right into this. Okay. First up is going to be Arborloo. And I can just let me know when to, I can click through for you, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing now. I forgot to say who this is presented by, but it's gonna be presented by me, Renee, and Jimmy. So, hi guys, my name's Renee, and I am the project leader for Haiti Arborloo. Okay, so I'm just gonna start off by introducing what our project is. So basically, Arborloo is a sustainable, movable latrine. So as you can see in the photo here, this past Arborloo example, this is kind of the hut structure that sits around the toilet base of the latrine. You can kind of see to the left of that structure, there's a shallow pit, and that's typically what the toilet base would be sitting on top of. And so the family uses it as a typical toilet. Once that pit is full, they dig a new one and then they move the entire latrine system to sit over that pit. Now you might be asking why. So in rural Haiti, they are having a problem currently with running water and electricity where they just don't have that. So there's a big sanitary issue regarding that. So we needed to come up with a quick, cheap, sustainable solution to that where they're not going to be infecting their water sources. And this will hopefully improve sanitation in that area. This is also designed to be constructed by a small family as well, so that they don't need to have any industrial or specialized workers come and help them build it. So that's basically why we're doing Arborloo. Jimmy, do you want to talk a little bit about the base of it?
Sure. So the base is mostly made with concrete, and last semester we made a bunch of samples with different amounts of biochar just to see which one comes out the strongest. But recently we've had a little setback. Turns out a lot of them are not even testable. So basically the goal is just to remake the concrete.
Yeah, so that's the kind of what we're working on this whole semester long. So in addition to that as well, we're going to be finishing up our instruction manual to actually have this Arborloo being produced down in Haiti. And with that also comes the pricing of materials in Haiti. So that's what we've been working on so far up to this point. And like Jimmy said, we've had a couple hiccups. So we're hoping to be a bit further along, but we'll get there by the end of the semester. And so basically, like we were saying, what's next? We're going to be actually translating our finalized instruction manual first into Spanish and then into, I think it's Creole or something. I'm not even sure, but we're translating it to Spanish first, and then they're going to be translating it into their native language. We're going to be finalizing our design documentation and hopefully testing our prototypes with the help of those in Haiti already. And like Jimmy said, we'll be retesting and recreating some more concrete.
Awesome, thanks guys. I'm just curious, this is a very random question. Do you know what the currency is in Haiti?
I don't actually. That's a good question. I'm looking up.
Does anyone else have any other questions? This really for everyone, this is a great time to like vet your ideas and propose alternate solutions for things. Oh, sorry, Catherine, you go
Yeah,
first.
I just wanted to ask. So I know you guys had kind of hoped to wrap up this semester, finishing up testing the base and materials. So since concrete isn't working as well as you thought, at least with the samples that you started with last semester going into this semester, what would be a backup plan if we're not able to get those materials to work?
I mean, it should work. It's just the ones we made last semester, we just made it incorrectly. So we're talking with someone from the civil engineering department so we can like show us how to do it correctly.
Yeah, so the compositions that we've been trying out have been being tested by the senior design teams for the past couple years now, actually. So they've been pretty involved with it. They know that this composition will work. We just have to be able to execute it properly and build it. So we don't have necessarily a backup plan at the moment because we are putting a lot of faith in this and faith in the senior design team's work that's been going into it. I know that the team that did try and actually construct the prototype in Haiti, they ended up using like a 5-gallon bucket instead of the concrete base. So they just flipped over a bucket and cut a hole in the top of it and put a toilet seat on top of that. So that would be one, I don't know, creative solution if this really does end up falling through the cracks. So fingers crossed that it doesn't though at this point, but we do have a couple backup options if it doesn't.
You guys didn't get a chance to test with bamboo, did you? I'm just looking at the PVC on these pictures.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't. It turns out bamboo is an incredibly expensive material to use in upstate New York. So it's one of the cheapest materials in Haiti, most very easily available there. So that's why we're gonna have them actually price out all the materials there and then have them start to construct a prototype in Haiti so we can actually make sure our material choices work.
Awesome. Any other questions for these guys?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. All right, next up is Red Creek.
Okay, Kylie couldn't make it, so I'm presenting instead. And this is my first semester working on this, so I don't know what else has been going on. And if you have any questions, please direct them to Kylie. Thanks. Okay, so a little background is that there's the Red Creek, which runs around a lot of parking lots at RIT. It runs and it runs through Rochester. So Red Creek, like this project will focus on K-Lot because of the amount of cars that are in it and the size of it. So there's a lot of like road salt and other contaminants that get leaked into the Red Creek from K-Lot. So currently we're researching eco-swalls or bioswalls, which would be like they're basically filters before like the water runs off into the river using plant beds and other stuff. And they're easier to implement than our road salt alternative, or like another thing that we're researching is like porous concrete. I mean like asphalt, which would replace what we have already. And we're close to moving that out of the research phase. And then we have our road salt alternatives, which would be harder to implement but easier than pavement. And we're still looking into more of those. And moving forward, we're going to research each solutions more thoroughly, like look at their pros and cons, alternatives to each of them in case one of them doesn't work out, and like look into the cost for like time and money. And then we're going to write proposals to RIT using our research in order to get funding for these projects and actually have them happen to improve the Red Creek.
Awesome, thanks, Miles. I'm just curious, why do you guys see road salt as harder to implement?
I think it's because like buying a lot of road salt would be more difficult than implementing the also you have to like put out the road salt.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you guys can talk with RIT facilities, because I mean, they're putting down road salt anyway, if you can just encourage them to switch to one, that would be a little more eco-friendly. I think that could be a good alternative.
That's true.
If anyone's curious, eco swales, they're also, if you look down Perkins Road, all of those like ditches right in front of Perkins are eco swales, a bit prettier ones, or part of it is a bit prettier, but yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I really hope this not to be biased, but I really hope this project, I hope we can make something happen on campus. I think that would be really, really cool. Thank you, Miles. It's awesome. Next up is InselNest.
All right, hey guys. So if you're new to the project, InselNest is an organic, sustainable insulation material, currently using a matrix made of mycelium and hemp pulp, readily available from this company called Ecovative. So we're on the 4th iteration of our project. So in phase 2, we did a lot of material science research, and we came across this material called mycelium, which is basically the root structure of mushrooms. You can grow it, and it's going to look something like, so the real stuff is going to look like something on the second slide, if you can go to that. Yeah, so on the top there, so that's what it looks like. It's basically a bunch of hemp pulp binded by the mycelium matrix. Okay, so if you can go back to the first slide. So currently we're doing some research about how to make this thing fire retardant. So Ellie's going to talk about, so Ellie's going to talk about the fire retardant coating, and then I'm going to talk about the nanowood stuff because Riley couldn't make it.
Yeah, so we tried laser cutting a sample and that didn't work very well. So we're looking into ways to make the samples more fire retardant. So I found this one place that did research, and it's kind of hard to understand, but it's a water-based solution that has cellulose nanofibrillus, so tiny fibers, along with tiny plates of vermiculite clay, and as it dries on the material, it transforms into a thin layer that will make it fire retardant.
Yeah, so if you can't tell, this project is very much biomimicry based, both in the structure of our material and in like the microstructure of things. So for example, the nanowood is one example of that. Instead of making a macroscopic geometry like the one below, that's one of our designs. We can make little tubes made of cellulose. So like sort of mimicking nature, how like, woods are made of are fibers like that. And apparently that's going to redirect heat transfer. So we're just learning a lot from nature as we go. So we can go to the second slide. All right. So like Ellie said, we did try to laser cut the thing, and because of the thickness, it didn't cut very well. Things started smoking. Initially, we also tried to light it on fire with a lighter. The material did not want to burn, so it kind of self-extinguishes after like maybe a few seconds of catching on fire a little bit. So it's almost burnt. So we ended up just sawing it to make it more rectangular for testing. And speaking of testing, this is an insulation material, so if you know heat transfer, the math is kind of terrible if you don't do steady state analysis. So we voted on, so there are two ways this analysis can go, right? Steady state or transient. And because of the horrible math that semi-infinite solid transient analysis has, the majority of people voted on steady state, which is going to make our experiment a little bit longer, but it's going to make our analysis a little bit simpler. So one example of our experiment is in the cartoon on the right, where we have like this insulated system with just a heat transfer over the heat source. And then we probe each side, each surface temperature, and we measure the heat rate with a kilowatmeter. So that's going to happen hopefully next week and the week after that, with a lot of guidance from Professor Stevens, who teaches heat transfer, who taught heat transfer. So. And the next steps, we're making new samples because we weren't satisfied with our particle size. The material tend to flake because the hemp pulp was kind of too big. So we try to just reduce that by using a food processor, hopefully to shred it down and make it more of a powdered consistency, to hopefully make the material even a little bit flexible. So we're going to get another bag from the company from which we can grow that. And then if anybody has a food processor, that'd be great if you can lend us your food processor, because buying it would be a little bit expensive. So if you guys want to volunteer for that, that would be great.
You can have my food processor for this, but I want to make sure I can still like make falafel in it afterwards.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt the food processor. You're just shredding like stems of plants. You're shredding cannabis stems. Pretty much, it's hemp. So.
Nice. Cool. Thank you guys. I had a question. I forgot what it was. Oh, just out of curiosity, how big was that like piece of
It's
I don't remember.
It's like
I'm just curious how big it was.
It's like a 3 by 3 by 1 inch.
Interesting.
Cube
How do
of-
they make that?
So in the bag, in the DIY bag there, you would put your ingredients together. It's kind of like baking. You would put the mixture in a mold. Initially, it's wet and stuff. You would put it in the mold, and the mycelium would start to grow from the starch you add to it, forming this matrix. It's fibrous, so it's going to form this sort of homogeneous matrix, and then you heat treat it, so it hardens, and it takes on the shape of the mold, and then you process it. You sand it. It's sandable. You sand it. You cut it.
So once you finish testing with the flame retardant material, you want to do a coating, how are you going to add that in? Most adhesives or anything like that would be flammable. So I'm just wondering how you're implementing that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just starting the research of that. We didn't know how fire retardant it was until we tried to light it on fire. It could be improved a lot because it's something in your wall you don't want that to burn. We're currently prioritizing just testing and to really get a thermoconductivity value. If we can get that, we can sort of model our future samples, sort of like using that K value to model other heat transfer behaviors based on their like differences in geometry. So that's like the novel part, right? Is we're trying to do something with the geometry. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, kind of speaking of the geometry, I want to go back. I think it's kind of interesting how your geometry has changed a lot throughout this project, thinking about like the original like wasp nest structure going to this more compact and then back to this kind of more open again, like the wasp nest. I thought that was kind of interesting seeing the iterations it's gone through.
Yeah, we considered a lot about like manufacturability and in modularity. So a lot of our designs are basically identical modules stacked together or laminated. It's going to make it very easy to make.
Awesome. Any other questions? All right, awesome. Thank you guys. Next up is water filtration.
All right, hello. So I guess I'm going to explain a bit about the water filtration project. Next slide. So this project is a partnership with TAM Ceramics to create a water filter that's suitable for household use. The desired flow rate they have is 2 liters per hour, and we want the price for the customer to be less than $10. The company provides the filter media, and our job is just to design the filter itself. So our goals for this project so far are that I'm working on the basic design right now, which is on the right. And then the left is the design that they use for like a community setup. And another thing we have to go through is finalizing how to contain the filter media so that the water going through it will be purified. And hopefully, maybe by the end of the semester, we'll be able to start fabrication. Yeah, any questions?
What is, oh, sorry, Catherine.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, I think it's a 2 liter, 2 liters an hour. What does that actually look like?
So it would be like, have you seen like the 2-liter jars that you can get at the market? It's basically that. It's supposed to like when you pour that much water in, it'll come out within an hour. And if you
Okay,
pour
so
more,
that's
that water will sit in for a while and then it'll eventually gradually flow out.
Okay, so that's a pretty slow drip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Actually, kind of going off of that, I would imagine that flow rate has to do with the density of the filter. Is there a way to almost split this filter and have it in stages to speed up the process?
That is a good question. According to the stakeholder I talked to, they would prefer it if it was like in one stage so that like the water can flow through slowly so the water can get purified and they can ensure that there's nothing contaminated in it. That's why the flow rate is slower. And also because they want the filter design to be tall because it'll allow the water a longer amount of time to flow through.
I wanted to ask about your design. So I see you've got your tap on that middle section. So is the bottom, so is that just going to be like a box to prop it up a bit, or is that like part of it?
That's a box to prop it up, or it can also be a part of it. Our goal is the tap is in that area so that you can put a bucket underneath and collect the water.
Okay, gotcha.
So the filter material would be in that upper tube and in the base with the spigot.
Yeah, the filter media would be in between that.
What is the filter media?
It's like so it's like a powder formula that needs to be inserted somehow into the like a sift like I guess a filter sift like object so that like the media will not go through, but the water will hopefully go through.
So if it's a powder, is that like really, is the whole thing going to be super heavy?
It shouldn't be super heavy. The box was pretty light and I opened it, so.
Okay. What's the dimension on this? We don't really have a great sense of scale.
Yeah, it's smaller than the one for the community. So I believe this one's dimensioned in millimeters and it'll be approximately the height of 10 feet or so.
Okay. Gotcha. Any other questions for Vicky? Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's a super interesting project.
Thank you.
Okay. last up, I get to talk again. So this picture is from the site we're designing for in Hawaii. It's He'eia Park. I'm gonna butcher these names, but it's on the island. Oh crap! Which island is it on? I don't remember.
Oahu.
Oahu. Yeah. Thank you. And I do remember the town it's in is Kaneohe. Our customer for this project is Huioko'olapoko, and that is basically, it's referring to a section of the island. And they are a nonprofit group working basically to restore this area of the island. It's interesting, they talk a lot about the culture of it, and you're kind of bringing it back to it's almost like its original state before settlers came to Hawaii. Yeah, really, really interesting, the work they're doing. But our goal is to design a rainwater catchment system to water their community garden in the dry season. So their wet season is, I believe, from November to about March, maybe a little bit of April. And the rest of the time it's very dry and they get very little rain. So we are hoping to have this system hold, I think it's about 220 gallons of water. These are 455-gallon tanks. And yeah, so some of our requirements, they wanted this to be gravity fed. They wanted to be able to fit a bucket or a hose to it. One of their biggest concerns was pests. If there's any sitting water or like accessible sitting water, then mosquitoes are liable to go in and lay their eggs in it. They also wanted to make sure this was not a permanent structure because this is in a state park. And they don't want to, there's issues about who has ownership over this structure. So, and also once we finish designing this, we are partnering with a new chapter of ESW at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And they are going to have a build day to put this together. So this is our finalized design, and I did put on the bottom of that scale. That is a 5'6" person. So this whole structure is 7'10". Although that'll probably be going down. Eli, could you take this one?
Yeah. So for our water storage system, we have those 555-gallon or what are they, tanks, as God damn it, Sarah mentioned. That's your name. Anyways, yeah, we chose those just because they're really cheap and accessible, and they're generally just like surplus from a lot of bottling companies, and they already actually happen to have 4 of them. And so the whole system is designed to be like modular and easy to disassemble. So that PVC assembly you see on the right is the distribution system for the water, which feeds all the water from the barrels into one spigot. And so that's designed to be removed because it has 4 bulkhead fittings, which just essentially screw into the tanks really easily. And then you can just twist them out. And let's see. Yeah, I meant to store about 220 gallons. And yeah, we made sure the base could support the weight. That's pretty much, and is easy to assemble and cheap. I think that's all I have to say.
All right. So here's our roof and gutter setup. This will be our entirety of the actual rain catching system. So we have corrugated, right now they're roofing panels, but we will likely be changing those over to corrugated plastic. Since there are a lot of weather conditions that we have to take into account, and there is concern that the metal would rust and not last as long as the plastic would. So this then leads down to our fairly standard gutter system. So That'll just all assemble like a normal roof would with our downspout. But we will be having chicken wire lining the top of the gutters to prevent larger debris from falling in, and also kind of act as that first guard against mosquitoes. And then one of the more interesting aspects to this downspout system is this item that called a rain reserve, which basically splits up your downspout, and it has an additional filter and runoff pipe, and it prevents even more mosquitoes from getting into our barrels, and it makes it more compatible with the barrels with flexible tubing. So again, easy setup, simple directions, and light materials that can be easily replaced. There's one more thing I wanted to say. This is currently at a 20-degree angle in hopes to maximize our rain collection with the angle of the weather. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Wait, is the gutter at a 20-degree angle or the roof?
The roof is at a 20-degree angle.
So the gutter is flat?
The gutter is flat. So if you look at this image on the left, the gutter is flat with this front portion of the roofing frame. We have small wedges. If you look in between these red arrows on the right, between the petty drop and the gutter end, there's a little wedge of wood to make sure that gutter is at a 90-degree angle off the roof frame, and then the roof frame itself is at a 20-degree angle.
Okay. I was thinking, like, if you want to minimize standing water, or like, what is it called? Like, if you don't want water to like just sit there in the gutter, you probably want to put in an angle.
The gutter
That's
at
actually a
it.
good point.
Yeah.
Like kind of bring this side up.
Yeah, just a little bit, so water can always flow down to the.
Yeah. That's a good point. We didn't really think about sitting water in here so much as in the barrels and other places. That's a good idea.
If it's flat, it's probably going to sit. I don't know. And then another consideration would be like somehow making the surfaces hydrophobic. So
yeah, we could totally do that.
Minimizes hitting water. So.
Absolutely, great suggestions. Thank you.
Yeah, especially if we have to lower that angle, making it a little more hydrophobic would not hurt. Any other questions? All right. If there are no other questions, that is all we have for tonight. Thank you for everyone who presented. Just for your own scheduling, I believe the next one of these is going to be April 20th, and we are going to be, like we did last semester, we're going to be meeting up with the U of R students. They're going to be coming to our general meeting. So yeah, I'm quite excited for that. I will confirm that, and actually, well, Peter, if you can let these guys know if that's the right date in the, let the PLs know. I'm pretty sure that's right. But yeah, so next time we'll get to see your updates, and we can see a lot of the U of R stuff as well. So that'll be cool. Only other thing is, don't forget about that nomination form. That's going to be going out in the Slack channel in like less than half an hour. All right. Hope everyone has a good recharge day tomorrow. I hope you actually get a chance to relax a little bit. If you can go outside, do it. It'll be nice. Even if it's raining, it'll be warm. All right, cool. See ya, everybody.